Welcome, beloved Youest listeners. It is such a pleasure and honor to have you here. I don't take for granted that you have many other places you can be, other things to listen to. I am so glad you have chosen to tune in today. This is one of my most favorite guests. You are so lucky to have. We're going to have Steve Nobel again with us today, and I want to just share with you, in case this is your first time learning about Steve. Steve Ahnael Nobel is the author of 5 nonfiction books. The most recent is a free ebook entitled Starseeds. He was a director of a non-for-profit spiritual organization called Alternatives. This was based in Piccadilly, London, for 13 years, leaving on the Winter Solstice of 2012. Subsequently, he began his own healing and awakening work. He has created a healing system called Soul Matrix Healing for Starseeds. He has created a library of incredible free resources, including meditations and transmission to help Starseeds, which are freely available on his website and YouTube channel. He's also on the Insight Timer app. As you guys know, it is one of my favorite apps, and I have listened to all of them. Recommend any of them. Just go through and find which ones speak to you, but they are all incredibly transformative. And his meditations and transmissions are played throughout the world. And so far, the platform has over 104,000 subscribers. He regularly runs events in the UK, in Europe, in the US, and now virtually. It is a total honor and pleasure. Steve, I'm so grateful you said yes again. I knew when we met the first time, I'm like, please come back, please come back. So thank you for being here today on the
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me with my virtual image behind me. Are your listeners going to be seeing this or hearing it?
Well, they have a choice. They're going to be hearing it for sure on the podcast, but we put everything up on YouTube. If you guys didn't know that, if you ever want to see my guests, everything is on YouTube. So we will get to see your incredible background.
My virtual library.
Yeah, the virtual library. I thought it was a swimming pool when you started that floor. It's amazing.
I think it's meant to be glass, you know, there we are, glassed to another level down. You see, I think that's what it is.
This is like such a great metaphor, because I feel like what comes out of you feels like, you know, eons of wisdom from the ages, like books and books. Like you just, maybe just for those that are a little bit new to you, to talk for a moment about your work around soul matrix healing, around working with starseeds, what that means. Maybe that'd be a good place to just, I think, dive in, right?
Dive in. What is the work with starseeds about? Well, we should say a starseed is someone that's not natural to, not native, I should say, not native to this dimension of Earth. And starseeds have a interesting soul history. They come from various dimensions and systems, whereas someone who's been really very much, not sure if the word stuck is the right word, maybe stuck is the right word, in this reincarnational cycle in this dimension of Earth, then their lifetime experiences are very much earthly. You know, if you look at the history of the Earth for the last 2,000 years, with its wars, slavery, empire building, that's what a lot of people on the planet have gone through. But starseeds have got other reference points, other dimensions, other star races. So they have a very different energy field. And also, even though they grow up in this world and they go to school and they're trained in the left brain way of education, usually, part of them is yearning for something else. Part of a starseed knows there's something more than this. There's more to life than this. That's kind of really a common energy. And there's usually a kind of a time where when they maybe adolescence, or maybe younger for some people, or early adult years, where they break away. They want to break away from this reality, which is this 3D mutant matrix, because it's a highly contrived and highly controlled matrix, you know. I think in America you have the land of the free, don't you? But actually, I'm not meaning to insult America, because I think it's an amazing country with amazing people. But in terms of freedom, I think the freedom people feel they have is more illusionary than actually real, because there's a lot of control and manipulation through media and money and corporations and pharma and all kinds of things. And politics that keeps people highly controlled. You know, that's my experience of America. And even Britain, which is highly controlled, I feel is less controlled, actually. For some reason, I feel easier here. So anyway, starseeds want to break away. There's a feeling at some point of, I can't deal with this energetically. you know, and maybe we don't have the language of energetics early on. I didn't know what energy was, you know, until someone says, you know, somebody was telling me about chakras when I was 15 or something. And gradually I got this idea of we radiate an energy. And then when I was in my early 30s, someone said, I went to a healer and she said, you create your own reality. And I was like, what did you say? And she said, well, we create our reality. And then she gave me a couple of books and I read them. And my mind was just like, I can't understand this book, but my body was really excited about it. And that set me on a journey in my early 30s of just absorbing channeling and books and everything to try, and my mind was struggling because it didn't have the training or the language for what this material was saying. But some part of me knew this was real and I had to absorb it and had to understand it and get it. And I started doing intense trainings in various things. Then I went to alternatives and I started hanging out with a lot of spiritual people, not all starseeds, because not all spiritual people are starseeds. There's a lot of spiritual people who are interested in spiritual stuff, but the galactic stuff, the star race stuff is too far out there for them. And then I had this big waking up call in 2010 where I just went through a dark night of the soul, came out the other side and heard a voice say, teach about starseeds. And I'm like, an ascension. I was like, oh, right. What is that? You know, I mean, I had a vague idea, but starseeds are here for a reason, and it ties in with ascension. Ascension is the raising of consciousness on the planet, the shift from an age of darkness to light, really. And every religion or every culture has these kind of stories or prophecies around the shift we're going through now. The Mayan calendar for Christians, Book of Revelations, is a classic, the shift from darkness to light. I'm not sure in the Jewish religion, actually. I'm not quite sure what they had there, but maybe you know that one perhaps, Julie, from your early training. Age of Pisces to Aquarius, and all of this, 3D to 5D is in metaphysical terms. So the shift. So starseeds are on the planet, they're here with a mission, and when they wake up to the mission, it's when it gets really interesting. So I started waking up and talking about this, and in the early days, I had a lot of people come to workshops, and then I had this message downloaded to me saying, start doing one-to-ones. And I was a bit like, doing what? And the kind of message was, you'll work it out. And I was like, oh. Well, I trained in coaching. I trained in a load of energy, light body, Akashic clearing. And I thought, well, I think somehow I've got to put it all together and create a new system from all these other systems. And that's what I've been doing over the last 4 years. Now it's kind of more or less there, really. In the early days, I was working out how each client was teaching me, how do I help this person or fit this together? So soul matrix healing is a combination of energy, Akashic reading, clearing, coaching, spiritual coaching, around getting someone to shift, to awaken, to move more meaningfully, to connect more with their authentic self, to remove the blocks, energetic blocks, such as other life blocks, you know, traumas, agreements, vows, promises, or mental blocks, the stories we create through experience, or bloodline blocks, because bloodlines create blocks. You know, starseeds are born into bloodlines which are mostly not very elevated, and so our parents may look at us and go, "We love you, but who are you?"
Yeah,
you know, that kind of thing. Or we love you, but we got no idea what you're talking about. You know, and maybe they'll try and shape us into being all right in the world, but we don't want to be all right in the world. I mean, my father told me to get a proper job. And for 20 years, I was trying to run on that idea because he was very not 5D starseed. My grandmother, who I love dearly, told me to get a secure job. And so I was running on these old ideas. And to be honest, it caused me a lot of suffering and misery. Not that they meant to cause me that, but that was their training and mindset they grew up with. But for starseeds, to get a proper job or to try and fit in or try and be normal is the worst case scenario, usually. And so when they come and meet somebody as wacky as me, although most people don't think I'm wacky, if you're a starseed, I'm not wacky. If you're a non-starseed, I'm completely off the planet and probably should be locked up or you know, something, or a health warning put on my website or something. But if you're a starseed, some part of you goes, wow, yay, I totally get what you're talking about. I mean, I had this woman, young woman from Eastern Europe, Serbia, I think, or somewhere like that. I can't remember. And she sat on the sofa and go, "You're the guy who's talking about the starseed stuff." And she had her arms crossed, you know, and body language quite closed. But I felt in her a real interest. And so I told her everything, and she became a devotee for a while, you know. So there is a difference, because it's not that starseeds are not skeptical, because they might come to it going, "Well, what is this?" You know, but some part of them will just pull them. But the part that's pulling them is not a part that they would normally recognize as their mind going, "Oh yeah, this is okay," or "This sounds good." It's another deeper part going, "Just check it out, just go with it," you know. And so it's about shedding our conditioning. We're trained to be very, very left brain, analytical, strategic, planning, blah, 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 and to ditch our intuition, to ditch our imagination, to ditch any working with our interior world. And, you know, I find that it's a big gap in most people. You know, they don't know, if they hit a problem, how to resolve it, because all they know is the left brain strategies. And that doesn't work when they hit an awakening, or it doesn't work when you hit a major crisis. You need something deeper, and the right brain, and then connecting with the unconscious, subconscious, unconscious minds, and the deeper superconscious mind. Most people have got no idea what that's about. And that's a skill. So what I'm doing in sessions with people is I'm conversing with their conscious mind, left and right, depending on where they're at or what they want. I'm talking to their ego selves, ego personality selves. I'm talking to their subconscious, unconscious minds. And then I'm trying to evoke their highest conscious mind more in their reality, more in their field, so that that part can become more active. So the inner channel opens and they can go, "Oh, you know, the Matrix, I can do Kung Fu, I can fly the helicopter, but I don't know how I did it." It's that kind of thing. So it sounds a bit strange and out there, but I think most people who've had sessions with me know, or have had webinars with me, know that I'm pretty grounded, even though I'm talking about out there stuff, really.
Yeah. Steve, you just said so much. I'm like, hold
Yeah, I
on, my
know. Sorry
friend.
about that.
No. It's amazing. I have a couple questions for you. I get this audio, like I can hear someone saying, "Okay, wait a minute." I want to say, because I've done work with you. I did a session or two, and it was so powerful. And I think it's interesting what you're saying. So if you're listening and you're like finding yourself being drawn to more and more of these kind of spiritual conversations, you know, for me, the dark night, leaving a marriage that was not bad, it energetically, and didn't have the words, Steve. I did not have the words to explain. Literally left in part because the energy did not match. And you know, this has been a journey for me, and I know people listening in this community, it's an awakening journey. And I think what you said is, it's like the litmus test. Like if you are drawn to what Steve is saying, to what you're saying, that's an indication that there's something that wants to be expressed in you that's beyond. So the first question is, how do you know if you're a star seed? Is there a way to figure out, like, what star race, what star nation might I've come from, or someone listening? How do you know? I'm thinking of someone who's like, how do I know if I'm a star seed? Is there kind of a question, assessment, or a way to figure that out? I know you said that you feel not native to this dimension. That's certainly, I mean, I felt that my whole life. Like I'm definitely
Yeah.
from somewhere else. I don't know. Other thoughts?
Well, starseeds most commonly have a feeling of, I don't really feel I belong in this family. They may love me, I may love them, but I don't quite sense a feeling of belonging. And that feeling of belonging may be the religion you're raised up in, the culture you're raised up in. That you may be drawn to otherworldly stuff, you know, sci-fi stuff, certainly drawn to alternative ways of living. Almost all starseeds are drawn to that. Whether that means going off grid and growing your tomatoes in some veggie plot, or learning about, you know, healing and going on ley lines and doing that. But certainly, like, very interested in saving the planet. I mean, the whole new wave of starseeds, you know, the new wave doing the Extinction Rebellion,
Yeah.
save the trees, save the planet, cut down pollute, you know, all of this mass wave of consciousness. And I guess you've had it in America, like over here, we've had that. These are the young people. And of course, it's been going on for a while. People chaining themselves to trees and various things. And they're very concerned about the environment, very concerned about the way the planet's going. They want to protect the planet. They want to change the way the world is. They're drawn to new technologies, because actually new technologies are a saving grace for the planet. Not the kind of technologies we're starting to see now, which is like
Yeah.
5G
Yes.
and those things. But there are technologies, more and more there are starseeds going into the scientific realm, and they're developing technology which is in line with nature, in harmony with nature. And the technology of the future, I think, the next 100 years, you'll see technology and nature much more blending, like learning from nature, because nature's already solved a lot of problems, and all we've got to do, is mimic a lot of those things. But over the last 50 years, building nuclear power stations and stuff like that, not a great solution. That's a 3D mindset, having a problem, and how do we solve this? I know, let's create a bigger problem by solving this other problem, or well, we need more oil, so let's create a war to grab more oil. There's a 3D mindset to do that. But when a 5D mindset really comes online and on the planet, so let's say at the turn of the millennium, 1%, less than 1% of the planet was starseeds, 1%. So the majority of consciousness was 3D people. Create and 3D leadership, creating 3D problems. If you read the newspapers, all they're doing is, like, Brexit in England has created a massive problem, really.
Steve, can you say quickly 3D? I mean, for those who are like, I know through like the difference between 3D and 5D. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I can hear people like, what is that?
What is that?
Yeah.
Well, 3D to 4D to 5D is a shift in vibration and consciousness, and 3D is the world. In the film The Matrix, this is the world you're living in. You pay your taxes, you go to church. Who's to blame? Which group should we be scared of? It's about fear, separation, us and them. It's a low level of vibration. It's guilt, it's shame, it's anger, it's frustration, it's resentment, all of those things. 4D, in terms of, there's a great book by, what's his name? He wrote a book called Power versus Force.
Oh, yes.
You know him.
David Hawkins.
David Hawkins.
Yeah.
So he wrote in that book a scale of vibration, and most of the lower end is 3D. All of that scale is 3D. So if anyone wants to know about 3D, read his book. The bottom scale, or you can go on Google and get the chart.
Yeah.
He says the pivotal point of change is courage. I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't tolerate that anymore. I'm leaving. I don't care the amount of pressure. I've had it. And courage may come from absolutely pressure, or it may come from a desire to do something positive. It can come through the carrot or the stick, but courage, we can't take it anymore. We have to leave the corporate world, the marriage, wherever it is, that narrow-minded community. And 4D is learning about mastery. The idea of 4D is I am responsible for my reality. I choose my reality. I create it. I attract it. I'm co-creating it. All of this is a very metaphysical concept, but a lot of channels since the 60s been talking about we create our reality, and that's a 4D concept where we're shifting out of the government creates my reality, my boss creates my reality, my wife creates it, or my husband or boyfriend. So 4D is, well, I can actually shift things. I can shift things from the inside out. That's a 4D thing. And so films like The Secret was really aimed at that level. You can manifest your car, your house, your swimming pool, whatever it is you want. Manifesting, attracting, the laws of resonance, like attracts like. If I'm really grateful for everything in my reality, I'm more likely to attract gratitude back. If I really focus on possibility, I'm more likely to see those doors open. If I'm more focused on joy and people smiling, I'm more likely to feel that energy growing in me. Whereas the reverse is true. If I see problems, more problems grow. If I'm focused on problem solution, I solve one, another one comes up, like the head of the Hydra. If I focus on misery, everywhere I look, I see people scowling and upset. Then I create more of that in myself. There's a great story, actually. I won't say who it was because it's very close to me. Someone in my family actually was having a hard time. And I suggested a personal development seminar, which had a spiritual element to it. And this person was quite young. He was 15. And I took him along to this seminar. It's a 3-day seminar where people go in the room and they shift and change. It was actually called well, it was based on insight seminars. I don't know if you've heard of that. It comes
Mm-hmm.
from America. Insight seminars, I really loved insight seminars. I did 1, 2, and 3 levels, I think, of insight seminar. It's a great, great training. Anyway, I took him to this, and on day 3, he can invite people to come to his graduation and clap and, you know, see how well he's doing. And before the ceremony, he said to me, "It's all rubbish. No one likes it. Everyone hates it." And I said to him, "Really? Is that really so? Everyone in the room hates it? Well, we'll see then." We went in the room and people were standing up with the microphone, how much it's changed their life, how much it's shifted them. And I looked at him and he looked in total shock. I think it was the first time in his life he actually realized that the reality he was seeing and believing in was not the reality that was there. It was a total shock for him.
Mm.
And it was a big, big wake up. I mean, for him, it took him a number of years to really shift. He's now shifted quite a bit and he's now more on track in his life, but he was having a hard time. So that was a big lesson for him. So 4D is around, you know, the world I'm seeing may not be the world that's actually there, actually, because we're projecting a world out there. We're seeing a world of misery, of hate, of war,
Yeah.
but actually we can see many different layers of worlds. And it depends on our own internal landscape. So I read the newspapers and I see about all the nonsense. I don't feel triggered by it. I feel, well, you know, the world's doing what it needs to do to shift and wake up. The world is going through a dark night. It is going through a dark night for sure. And a lot of us starseeds have gone through our personal dark night and are not fazed by it. We go, well, you know, I've been there. I know what hell on earth is like personally. And so the planet's going through it. And I know on the other side of that, it's going to be a new world. But, you know, whereas I took 6 years, I don't know how long you were in your dark night, but the planet will take a lot longer, of course. It will take a few decades, quite a few decades, maybe 30 to 50 years. Possibly 30 years, definitely 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We should see some major changes after another 10 years, I think. We're in the most volatile period on the planet. So 5D, you've come out of your dark night or you've woken up to a higher frequency. You've opened your inner channel. You're stabilizing in love consciousness, unity consciousness. You've opened your connection to the higher self. You can feel guides and angels around you to some extent or great extent. Your reality shifted and stabilized. Doesn't mean there's no challenges. You may have challenges, but they don't phase you. You can get through them. You have the resources. In terms of manifesting, you don't need to do the vision boards, the chanting. You just focus on your intention and just focus on that will be a great thing to consider. And then doors start opening. So that's 5D. Everything is vibration in this world. So 3D to 4D is a shift in vibration. 4D to 5D is a shift in vibration. 5D is about the highest vibration we can hold while being in a physical body. If we shift to 6D, then we can't really fully be here. We pop out the body. I think we can be connected to higher vibrational aspects of ourselves, but in a body, we have to be 5D. The higher end of 5D, there's layers, sub-layers of each of these dimensions. But after the end of 5D, a puff of smoke, we've gone. You know, we're in another dimension. We can't be here anymore. We've got no more lessons to learn, nothing more to do.
Right. Question for you about this is so helpful. So some of the masters that have walked our earth, some that we know and some I bet we don't know. You know, if you think of Jesus or Buddha or maybe even a Moses or Mother Mary, or I mean, we could go on and on. Would you say they came in embodying the 5D vibration and that was the lesson that they were here to teach? Or maybe share a little bit when we study or look at those beings, might even put Gandhi or Mother Teresa or, you know, others in that category.
Yeah. So all of these great spiritual teachers, you know, if you're talking about Jesus the Christ or Buddha or Muhammad or any of these teachers, or Moses or probably Mary Magdalene, I think Mary Magdalene as well. A lot of them, if you're in it, because if you think of that time, the planet now is in a 4D time band, a vibrational band. Back in the time of Christ, let's take Christ as an example. Palestine, that whole area, Roman occupied, you know, a lot of volatility, conflict. This was real 3D, real 3D. And he was born I believe all these masters are born as a high vibrational being, but at a certain point in their journey, they have what I call a walk-in, or what's commonly called a walk-in experience. And for Jesus the Christ, his walk-in happened, I think, when he was baptized by John the Baptist. You know, the dove, that holy dove descended into him from heaven. So a higher consciousness comes into his body. And so there's a higher vibrational being there. And suddenly he's on his mission, where he was learning before. He was exploring and finding out and sitting at the teachers' feet of rabbis and going off to Egypt and India and traveling with his uncle, you know, Joseph of Arimathea, and finding out. But then when he had the walk-in, bang, his mission was gone. He's off. And Buddha is the same. You know, if you look at the life of Buddha, born into a super wealthy royal family, questioning, and going off and searching eventually. But he had a moment under the Bodhi tree where he just woke up, and that was it. He was off. But this waking up is a walk-in process. Another soul comes in, or whether another soul comes in as a walk-in or overshadows, it's probably actually an overshadowing process where there's an overshadowing. So the soul's in the body, but overshadowed by another higher being in the energy field. And that higher being is directing the soul to do its mission. And so beings like Buddha and Jesus the Christ came to plant a seed in the 3D matrix. And Jesus said, you know, I'm going to come back. There's going to be a second awakening, a second coming, which was more about a grand awakening. He was talking about not me coming back in a single body, I don't believe. And I think in the Bible, he talked about when the water carrier is outside the city of Jerusalem pouring on water or something. He's talking about the age of Aquarius. You know, when the age of Aquarius comes, basically expect a grand awakening, which is where we're at now. You know, what's happening now.
Ooh, I got a lot of chills when you said that. Well, I think part of my question is what you were just saying, that call to action, this time that, and I know people listening, I know I have a lot of empaths, highly sensitive souls, probably a ton of starseeds that are in this community that are listening. And I always feel like we're all working in this shift together. I mean, we need each other.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about. So it sounds like we're moving into now this 4D, you said the 4D band. Maybe continue with, you know, I know we have a few minutes, but I'm just going to let you go with like
okay.
the call to action. What is the lesson? What can we, maybe a greater perspective of what's happening now, what you see in the next year, few years, 10 years, and then how can we really stay embodied in that 4D to 5D shifting, not get sucked into the matrix of 3D?
So the big shift on the planet was the 2012 trigger point, which was a huge influx in light. Another major shift was 2019 last year, and that's going to go on until 2022, maybe 23, but probably 22. This is the most volatile period on the planet, where there's a clash of forces. There's a dance between the higher light and the lower, darker shadows on the planet. You know, and there's lower energies that want to stay in control, and the higher energies say, you know, the world's ascending, it's shifting, you're out here, you know, and that's the volatility. So when Jesus came to the planet, he said, I do not come to bring peace, I come to bring the sword. And what he meant by that is when he came to embed a higher vibration, it caused 2,000 years of conflict. As those, you know, let's embrace love, you know, let's embrace oneness. No, let's fight and create war. It created a lot of volatility. And I remember when in my early years, I was wondering, why did he do this? If he must have known it was going to create such chaos and pain on the planet, why would he do it? But he had to do it. He had to plant the seed, even though it created chaos, because that seed and others who planted those seeds, the seeds are kind of waking up now, and people have got those as anchor points. So we have, the first big shift in terms of the dark versus the light was 9/11. 9/11 was an orchestrated event planned to keep people in lower vibration and keep the planet in war. That did its thing for, you know, 19 years or so. The new event, which is again orchestrated, I feel. It's an orchestrated event designed to keep the planet in fear and control, and designed to pass, you know, laws that strip people from certain freedoms and terrorize people into stuff and more. I mean, it's a whole area you could spend probably an hour or two on, but I don't want to go into it, other than the COVID was released with a bigger agenda in mind. It's not like, let's terrorize the planet. The people that launch these things have got a 5-10 year plan. And so that's the thing, which involves vaccines and 5G and all of these things. And so that's the thing to watch out for. They want to keep control of the planet, and they're going to do everything they can to do it because they're very worried about the light. They know about the ascension process, and they're trying everything they can to block it. So it's a brilliant strategy. Let's launch something like this, and let's take people away from the light. But actually, everything they do is actually triggering more awakening. 9/11 triggered awakening. This event is making people wake up, and even non-starseeds are waking up and marching in masses going, we don't believe our governments anymore. We don't believe this stuff. We're not having it. And I think in America, there's a lot of civil unrest, I think, because of this. So in terms of a starseed, it's about shifting your own vibration, releasing fear from the collective, staying grounded. There are practical things you can do. I mean, there are practical things around vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc. I take also black seed organic oil, which has got quinine in, which is very good for these kind of things. There are lots of alternative stuff you can do. I did make a batch of thieves oil, which you can, if you just Google on the internet, thieves oil recipe, you'll find that's an interesting thing to dab around your nose and mouth if you're worried about nasties coming in. So there are practical stuff, but there's energetic stuff you can do. I protect my field with tachyon. So I don't know if you guys know 0 point energy. This spelled TACHYON, and so I put tachyon under all of my computers, all of my routers, TV, electrical circuits. That's really great. I use orgonite, which I think comes from the work of Wilhelm Reich. This is one of the orgonite. This is something I put my tea on. Basically, orgonite is like resin embedded with copper, other metals, and crystals, and it's very good for breaking up electromagnetic energies. So for orgonite, it's very good. So under my bed is filled with orgonite pyramids. Practical things. I've put on my YouTube channel dealing with 5G energy meditation, a wellness meditation for dealing with a lot of the stuff coming up. Grounding into the crystalline grid of the earth is very important because we can transmute these energies. I would recommend anyone considering vaccines to really research it before they ever let any of that stuff near them. That's a very, very bad thing to consider, really. I would say I'm not going to have it, and I'm just hoping the agenda that's pushing it, draconian measures, get stopped. I think one of the good things about Trump that I do like is I think he's been anti-vaccine. I think that's one thing I like about him. There may be not a lot of things you like about Trump, but that's one thing I like about him. I can thank him for that if he blocks the dark. And I think this is one reason actually why those dark forces want him out, because he's not part of them. Whereas the previous person who was in, even though he was very loved and had great rhetoric, knew the game and was playing the game. This guy is not playing the game. He doesn't really, I'm not sure how aware he is of the game or not, but he's a bit of a thorn because he's just so, random and, what he comes out with and does, Yeah. But they are trying to control him, and they have succeeded here and there, but not totally. So I think ideally they want him out. And I'm not quite sure about the guy Biden. Unfortunately in America, you don't really have a lot of great choice, really. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
There we are. So there's a lot of things you can do to keep your own energy high. Don't watch the news. Don't get sucked into the fear. Do practices to release collective fear, because there's a lot of fear going on around. I know in America you've got elections, you've got the fires on the West Coast, you've got a lot of stuff going on. So you have to release all that collective fear and start radiating from a more peaceful place. That will help the collective more than just jumping in the hole of let's all be afraid and be anxious and I also recommend people don't get too excited about the QAnon conspiracy sites, and all that. Yeah. Some of what they say I think is true, but a lot of it you can take with a pinch of salt, I would say.
Very helpful. Last, for those that are dabbling in trying to access spirit guides, and ascended masters, you do a lot of meditations where you bring in Metatron, Sandalphon, Archangel Michael and Raphael and Uriel. And I'm just, for me, it can be very comforting to just, even if they're not active imagination probably the Starseed thing. I love picturing just this team with me, and it's very comforting. And I'm wondering, for those that are new or that are awakening or feel like, wow, this feels very unsteady. I think even if I have been through a dark night of the soul, and it still can feel unsettling. I just went through a period of, my gosh, my energy was just wiped out. I mean, I just took it on without realizing it. Do you recommend connecting with any specific ascended master, or is it just better to feel into who's best? I know you have meditations that go and connect with many of them. I'm just thinking of those that maybe are like, I'm going to try some guides and some support that may not be in the physical form right now.
Yeah, well, on my website, on my website and YouTube channel. So the YouTube is Steve Nobel, and you'll see I've got a gold tree with a red background. That's my icon. There's a lot of practical meditation, even though they call on angels, they're quite practical. So the most recent one I've done is a super quick defrag your mind meditation, which is clearing out judgments and opinions in the mind. There's a super quick energetic sealing your space. And there's kind of a lot of practical ones. There are ones with angels like Archangel Gabriel or Michael. There are star race ones. Like Archangel and Lyran, and a lot of Syrian ones and Arcturian ones. There are a lot of energetic ones like entity extraction, energy extraction. There is ones on Jesus, the Aquarian Jesus Christ, and Arcanart and transmission. I haven't done a lot of I haven't done any ascended masters actually, because I don't feel a personal connection with them. So I work with star races, angels, archangels. I work with certain beings like Christ. Akhenaten was a very interesting one that came to me. There are goddess ones like Kuan Yin. What else have I done? Isis is a common one I've done. I've done Horus is one recently. I've got a very strong connection to Egypt. So there's a few Egyptian ones there. For people who feel connected to Atlantis and Lemuria, which is a lot of starseeds have a connection there, I've got transmissions for that. So they're very practical. So star races, angels, and certain beings. But they do work on calling the angels. I call 6 archangels, which are always the same ones in the horizontal plane and the same ones in the vertical plane. 4 in the horizontal, the east, the south, the west, the north, and the up and the below. And they work with symbols. So each angel has the 4 angels of the horizontal plane have a symbol. And those symbols work on our unconscious mind, because the unconscious mind opens. You might go, Archangel Michael. Well, I don't know. What's he look like? I've no idea. Here's a flaming sword of blue light. Oh, I can see that. And what we're doing is, even you're connecting to the angel, but you're also connecting to the 104,000 starseeds, which are all tuned into these transmissions. So there's a group energy forming. So everyone doing these transmissions, you're connecting into a group field. I didn't realize that in the beginning, but now I do realize it. So,
wow.
you've got the angels, but you also got this group of starseeds there, and your own team in spirit, your higher self, your I am presence, the oversoul that you're working with. And so that produces a strong container of light and of high vibration. So within that, you can do anything. You can bust your fear, you can clear your anger, you can connect the guides, you can do whatever you want, really. That's the process.
Thank you. No, that is fantastic. So really the best thing to do, go to YouTube or your website, and I know this from doing so many of them. It's actually been really fun. Like, I've read through it. I'm like, oh yeah. I want that today. The sovereign being, or the abundance affirmations, or I want to bring in, you have one with Divine Mother Mary. And I remember you have so many. So I think that's a great place to start. Love what you said too about connecting. I think about, I've had the founders of Heart Math on here, and they've talked about science with feeding the field with our heart energy. And it kind of reminds me what you said. It's, when we're all as starseeds doing these transmissions, we are feeding the field. That's what came through to me. I don't know if that resonates.
Coherence, what they talk about, group coherence, personal coherence. I actually trained in the Heart Math coaching years ago. It's great because you can actually see with these little things on your fingers on the screen, how's my heart doing? Am I coherent or am I stressed? And all that, which is great. Some people like to see that.
I was a little stressed to see that I wasn't as coherent as I thought I would have been. And then I realized, great, that's what I got to work on. Thank you so much. Before we wrap, I'll just say this. I always say, for the last, if there's any heart flare, anything that's there that you didn't say that's just coming through right now, that you're like, I want to just end here. I want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, do not feed the fears. Focus on inspiration, raising your vibration, gratitude, love, what is working in your life, how you can truly be of service, not what you'd love to do and can't do, but what you can do, you know, and step towards that. Because this is a big wake-up call for you to step towards what you're truly here to do, your mission, why you decided to come at this time. You came for a reason. So this is a great, take it as a great help, a great kick up the backside to find out, well, what's that about, you know?
Beautiful. Thank you. That was it was exactly that was like drop the mic. I'm going to end there because I honestly could talk to you forever, and just want to honor you. So grateful for your time, your generosity of just giving us your wisdom and sharing. And I love that. Don't feed the fear. Focus on inspiration and gratitude and love and being of service. You said it beautifully. Thank you so much, Steve. This was such a gift.
Pleasure, Julie. Thank you.